This is Damon Carson, the owner and president of Repurposed Materials. If you're not already on his distribution list, you should definitely check out their website. Their strategy for landfill diversion is called repurposing. Damon and his repurposing concept have been featured on media outlets such as the Chicago Tribune, CNN Online, the Dallas Morning News, and Oprah Winfrey. Damon will present Repurposing Industrial Waste Streams. Damon, come on down.
So we'll start right away with a magic show to illustrate repurposing. So I'm going to show you a waste stream, and then we're going to do a little hocus pocus and turn it into something else. So this is a military cargo parachute. They come in 35-foot, 64-foot, and 100-foot diameters. No longer good to the DOD. And a little hocus pocus, and you turn it into a shade canopy at a county event. So now we're going to try a little more difficult double repurpose. Just like at the Olympics, a double flip is harder than a single flip. We're going to do a double repurpose on this one. Interestingly, what did Josh show us this morning? Small propane tanks. Now we're talking industrial scale stuff. So a little hocus pocus. You turn them into barbecue grills. The artisan on the right is actually here in the Bay Area. He takes the curvatures, cuts it, and reassembles it as a park bench. So that's a double repurpose. So now we're going to up the degree of difficulty to the very difficult triple repurpose. This is conveyor belt from the mining industry, big rolls of rubber. It could be 24 inches, 36 inches, 6 feet wide, can be hundreds of feet long. Most of this is getting buried in place at the mines. A little hocus pocus, all kinds of things you can do in a second life, or a repurpose with old conveyor belting. So Damon, that's wonderful, but I'm small scale, so let's go back to preschool. When you were in preschool, in its first life, what happened, or why was the Quaker Oats cylinder created? It was created to bring home oats. Did it ever go right in the recycle bin? Of course not. You got it made into a drum. Last week was St. Patrick's Day. One of the best preschool things for an old oatmeal cylinder, a leprechaun trap. Look it up on Pinterest. So it got repurposed as a leprechaun trap. An old Maytag refrigerator box, first life meant to protect a high-value appliance. Did that ever go right to the recycle bin? As a kid, absolutely not. You made a fort out of it. You made a playhouse. You did something with it. What's interesting about America is we're born with the resourceful repurposing gene. But in a land of abundance, it just kind of goes away. So what we're not just to define terms, we're on the reuse side. Typical reuse of a boat, a forklift, and a refrigerator. There's a used secondary market for all three, but in a second life, a boat stays a boat, a forklift stays a forklift, and a refrigerator. Repurposing is certainly a tangent off that, but it's different in a second life. Old railroad ties become landscape timbers. Again, it's been around for so long you don't really think about it. Old OTR tires, Michelin, Goodyear, they created them as tires, but they get a great second life or repurpose as dock fenders and tugboat fenders. Old barrels, you cut the lids off of them, they become trash containers, etc., giving an extended life or a repurpose. Now let's talk about less familiar repurposes. Big advertising signs, Budweiser, Chevrolet, Coca-Cola. Heavy-duty piece of waterproof vinyl. Valentine's Day was yesterday. Today's February 15th. All those diamond ad campaigns are done. They take all those billboards down. They're headed to the landfill. You repurpose them as tarps. If you want to be the all-American parent or grandparent, slip and slides for kids. Old bowling alley wood. Again, a sport that's, its golden era is past. So a lot of these bowling alleys are getting ripped apart. What happens to all that old wood? It's hard maple. Great workbenches. And of course, our flagship is old street sweeper brushes. The little red thing behind the axle is about 60 inches tall, starts out 36 inches, steel pipe, plastic bristles, wear part. Every day it gets a little smaller, 22 inches, they retire it. They go in the landfill, they get repurposed as backscratchers for livestock. So all over the nation, dairy farmers, horsemen, and zoos love them. There's a lot of happy rhinoceroses in this world at zoos because of old street sweeper brushes. So how do you get all these weird, crazy ideas? Any fellow subscribers to Wire, Rope, and Sling Technology News? It's like an auction. Don't raise your hand if you don't want to be looked at. I thought I had a fellow subscriber right up there. Wire, Rope, and Sling Technology News. The secret to repurposing is you read the ads. What's being made new that some used material could be substituted? So this is a sling guard protector. It's just a big sleeve. You have the high-value sleeve, or sling rather. You have a chain, something that's a wear part, and you don't want to tear it up. So they make a new protective sleeve. Upper left, substitutionary thinking. How is that fundamentally different than taking old decommissioned fire hose and cutting it up into 3-foot, 6-foot, 9-foot lengths and using that as a protective sleeve? Interestingly, from the West Coast here, we just took in 100,000 feet of fire hose from the U.S. Forest Service, from all the forest fires last summer that was heading to the landfill. They reached out and said, "Can you help?" So, anybody need 20 miles of fire hose? This is another one. Poultry USA, ma'am. Are you a fellow? Right there. A fellow subscriber to Poultry USA. Again, you look at the ads. What is being made new that could be substituted, that's something that's used? It's hard to see. Nest pad, 1.5 inch, plastic shag carpeting. It does exactly what it says, nest pad. Egg, the hen sitting in the cage, lays this egg. The egg falls, it lands on this nest pad. How is that fundamentally different than all the turf being thrown away off of all the... Did you get it right back there? Yeah, you guys are getting the hang of it. All this, one football field in America, 600,000 pounds on average going to the landfill, 15 semi-loads. We did the soccer field from Harvard in Boston last year, so we were affectionately saying we were selling Harvard Yard. So save it. So here's our grid. Everybody that's taking notes, this is the academic portion of the program. SAVE, what makes a good candidate for repurposing? Standardization. The more standardized you can make a waste stream, the more it's a candidate for repurposing. If you have 100 random pieces of lumber, 2x4, 2x6, 2x8, 22 inches, 44 inches, and 108 inches, that's a lot harder to find a repurpose for than, hey, our waste stream's 2x6 and they're 27 inches, all 100 of them. Then you can find that second unrelated industry that might be able to have 19 inches and you just have to lob off a few inches. Availability, is this a recurring waste stream or is this a one-time waste stream? So think about billboards. You might be taking down billboards in Oakland today, but not tomorrow, but in Phoenix they're taking them down next week, in Orlando, Florida. So within the industry, it's a recurring waste stream. So you develop these markets, you develop these repurposes for it, and it helps when it's a recurring waste stream. Versatility, we use this in combination with 3 words: generic, versatile, and adaptable, by far and away the most important. Generic, versatile, and adaptable. So this is a roofing paver, generic, versatile, adaptable. So you got a flat roof, you got insulation, you got a rubber membrane, and then you got ballast or weight. In this case, it's a paver. Notice it's flat on the top, cleated or corrugated on the bottom. That's where the water runs. You show that to 2 different industries, because it's generic, versatile, adaptable, they look at it completely differently. You show it to a landscaper, flat side up. It's a paver. It's a patio. You show it to a livestock owner, he flips it, completely opposite. Those flutes, those corrugations, become traction for his animals. Generic, versatile, and adaptable. To make the E engineering, we use it in combination with 3 words: attributes, characteristics, and engineering. What did the product do in its first life that makes it a candidate for a possible repurpose? Was it windproof, waterproof, hollow? Was it heavy? Was it magnetic? All these things, what did it do in its first life that might allow it to be substituted for something else in a second life? So this is a railroad bridge. They get to 30, 40 years, they get retired. They typically get cut up into 3-foot chunks and melted. They get sent to Chicago or some mill. They get melted, and what do they get made into? An I-beam, a car bumper, or something? What is naturally present in this bridge? Attributes, characteristics, and engineering. You got 2 axles. You got big beams spanning 2 axles. you remove those two axles, you remove the knuckles, and you have all the elements of a bridge. So rather than cutting it up, sending it to a mill, melting it down, making a new I-beam, shipping that I-beam out, and making a new bridge, why not just reuse or repurpose the rail car? So that, we often get asked, does repurposing make more sense environmentally or economically? We say it's at the intersection of affordability and sustainability. With that, I think my 10 minutes is up. I appreciate your time. So, Rebecca?
You're
A machine. What, do I have 7 minutes left?
No, you're great. You're perfect. I want your questions. I don't want to waste any time with my quips.
I answered them all.
Okay,
No, I
here
didn't.
we go, and then Marcia.
Often I feel to hear that when you're repurposing things, it can take a lot of energy to like turn them into like something else, and like maybe that energy doesn't like balance, something less than they currently do. So like,
She's asking about if you have to change something to make it into something else, it takes a lot of energy. Carbon footprint is kind of the question. With repurposing, we bring it in as is. We send it out as is. So there's no reformulation. We bring in 100,000 feet of fire hose. We send out 100,000 feet of fire hose. So yes, on the waste hierarchy, reuse is absolutely the highest and best use of waste because you don't have to do anything. I mean, that bridge, you take off the axles and the knuckles, and it's ready to go as a bridge.
So we have Marcy and then Mary Lou.
so is there an online clearinghouse for this? Like for example, somebody has burlap bags or coffee beans.
Yeah, so we have is there an online clearinghouse? We have a website, Repurposed Materials, Inc. So we have yards in 5 cities around the country: Denver, Chicago, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Dallas. Notice no West Coast yet. Hey, we're young. We'll be here in due time. In due time. Is there a clearinghouse? So Rebecca already mentioned our newsletter that goes out a couple times a week, and so yeah, we have these warehouses. The product sits, and we just look for industrial buyers that figure out all kinds of fun.
Mary Lou. She's from Urban Ore.
And I'm wondering, how do you get this stuff to and from the location? What's your logistics?
Is Dan your husband?
Yes.
He gave me a very nice tour of your facility yesterday.
Oh, that was him. Yeah.
I talked to you on the phone a couple of weeks ago. You answered his cell phone. He said, "No, this is not Dan. This is Mary Lou." So I'm sorry. What was the question?
What's the logistics of getting stuff
What's
in
the
it?
logistics?
We have resale every which way. You are operating in larger quantities of larger stuff. How do you do that?
Expensively. No, we truckloads. So a good example, Ford Motor Company had 6 acres, 100 or 300,000 square feet of a synthetic parking lot fabric. They had it for 2 years. They didn't want to asphalt a parking lot to put cars, new cars that they were bringing in. They rolled it all up. At the end of 2 years, it was all going to the landfill. Absolutely no recycle markets for it. They reached out to us and they said, "Can you help divert this from the landfill?" So we brought in 15 semi-loads, and we divided it up between warehouses, and we're slowly selling it off roll by roll, but there is some monster waste streams out there.
But did Ford Motor Company pay for those trucking, or did you pay for that trucking? No, but I mean just literally.
That's kind of personal.
No, but that's a legitimate.
No, it really depends. Sometimes we pay freight if we think there's sufficient value. I mean, sometimes we ask the customer to pay freight. Redondo Beach just emailed me this morning, and they've got 2,000 feet of fire hose, and they said, "We can't afford freight, but you're more than welcome to the fire hose if you can help us keep it out of the landfill."
Okay.
Case by case. Thank you.
Perfect.
You want to be
So-
my eye candy and help me be my Vanna White?
She would succeed well in that role. I
Yeah.
agree. Okay, folks, he has no more time, but I gotta say, like, you were worth the wait.
Thank you.